The B Plus Wrestling Podcast.
The Moose.
You might not be an A, but you are a B plus.
Check it out! Here we go! You wanna mess with us? Cause we're steady on the ground, steady on the ground.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen out there in the B Plus land. It is me, your B Plus man of mystery, Mr. Mysterious here, and welcome to the Impact Zone. It's a long overdue episode of the Impact Zone. Unfortunately, I had some technical issues last week that prevented me from covering Cali Combat. So I'm going to be covering Cali Combat and the latest episode of Impact Wrestling, which is a part of their Mexico tapings. Going to do double duty this week, which was probably not advised because of the week of wrestling that we have, because at the time of recording, we've just finished Royal Quest for New Japan. We've finished TakeOver Cardiff. I'm watching parts of All Out at the moment. I've watched the buy-in, going through the rest. We'll probably have a review of it, hopefully in the near future for you guys, a big rundown of everything that happened for AEW All Out. But we are a small team. Our time can only be spread out so far, but I wanted to make sure that I did not forget Impact Wrestling in the shuffle, especially after not being able to cover it due to unforeseen circumstances last week. So for my gift to you guys, how about we cover Impact Wrestling this week? I'm actually kind of glad that I'm covering Cali Combat with the Mexico tapes, because I was not really a fan of Cali Combat that much. There were some good elements, but having watched the latest Mexico taping, I find I'm a lot more comfortable talking about this week's episode of Impact Wrestling. So let's take a little step back in time. Let's talk about the second Cali Combat. I know it's not the first. Like, they've done a couple of these Cali Combat shows. They're not really pay-per-views, but they still call them give them a little name for these ones. Very special episode, of course, emanating out of California, if you hadn't guessed already. We started out with Rhino versus Michael Elgin. The two big boys just battling it out. A very interesting opening match, because you're usually used to your X Division guys just laying it out all on the line, or you have like a hardcore match to open things up. Well, that's more MLW as well. Very interesting styles how they start out. But no, we started out with two boys who have just been brawling and brawling and brawling everywhere. You can't keep them in the same room because they will start bickering. They'll start fighting down the hallways like LAX and the Lucha Brothers did a couple of months ago. I think it's just an Impact trope at this point. Like, if you're in a hallway, you're in a lunch area, there's going to be brawling. There's going to be the back slaps and just like, you come here, you piece of shit. Pretty much all those. But in terms of the match here, wasn't really much to say, to be honest, because this actually ended in a double countout. These guys started brawling. They kind of got started a little bit, but it was about 5 minutes in. That's when they just started brawling on the outside. And yeah, the referee counted them both out. You had the crowd chanting, let them fight, but the match was over. The fight continued all around the ring, though. Security were there to put an end to it. Even Scott Del Mori came out, which was very interesting. Afterwards, you had a little post-match interview with Michael Elgin, where he's talking about Rhino, Mr. ECW, right? Mr. Hardcore thinks he's a bad man, but this ain't over. It's not even close to over, right? And Elgin tries to finish the promo, but it's just as if Rhino was just casually waiting for the right moment. He was just listening on the promo, and just when he hears that this isn't over, Rhino just barges through like a wild beast, which funny that, saying that, yeah, this ain't effing over, this ain't effing over, and they start brawling again on the outside, and again, security arrived to split them up, Rhino yelling, throwing some F-bombs out there, this ain't over, this ain't over. We'll be covering that a little bit more with the Mexico tapings, because they actually ended this week's episode with a last man standing match. So that was what they built up towards, but in terms of opening for last week's Cali Combat, wasn't really... I'm not a fan of like no contest wins, right? And only because like recently Impact seemed to do a lot of them, and I think like I'm okay with them happening, but I think less is more. I think they've been used quite a lot recently in a lot of matches, not just in the guys wrestling, in the women's wrestling as well. So I'd rather break from them, maybe for about a month, maybe a couple months. Just ease up on the. You can have like screwy finishes, sure, like a sneaky pin and stuff like that. But I don't know. I think we've overused the DQs, the no contest, the double countouts with Impact Wrestling. Maybe that's just me, but I thought I'd just share that out there. We had the Tag Team Championship match. So we had the North going up against Reno Scum. The Reno Scum, I think, are officially back in Impact Wrestling after teasing they might go to WWE. Maybe not. They put a weird tweet out saying, like, yeah, we might be going to WWE. Like, they might announce it soon. Or nothing might happen of it. You never know. They just very casually, very weirdly, like very un-WWE announcement like for a team to do that before WWE even do anything. So maybe that's why it didn't happen for them. But they're back in Impact is what's happened. These guys, yeah, they crushed it. The North, there's a reason that they were main eventing for the past few weeks, and they've been going through every single tag team on the roster like flies because they're that damn good, and they are carrying the locker room at this point because, again, I'm glad I get to talk about this with the Mexico tapings because you can tell because Brian Cage is not there, the world champion is not in Impact Wrestling right now. He's actually hurt, but not to the same degree as how he was before. Like he's still active, but he's not like very seriously injured, if that makes sense. But you can feel the fact that he's not on the program, and no one's really stepped up in terms of the other champions because you have the next champion like down from him is Jake Chris, the X Division champion, and like he's got a big ego boost, but he's not conducting himself like he's supposed to be running the company in Brian Cage's stead, right? He's got his own shit he's dealing with. And the only guys who are really trying to lead the charge and go their little extra mile are the North. So I love the North for trying to get us through all this stuff. And of course, Sammy Callahan, who doesn't have anyone to bounce off of at this point, which sucks because it's part of the reason why we're circling the Tessa Blanchard and the Tommy Dreamer storylines over and over again. And I'm hoping that eventually we can stop circling, which after the latest Mexico taping, I think we can safe to say like they're going to start picking things up very, very soon. But the North, unsurprisingly, they retained their championships, defeat Reno Scum, very convincing fashion, did the alley-oop. Wonderful stuff there. We had a little bit of a promo after that. Ace Austin standing in the corridor, sporting some crutches and some bandages, and he's just waiting for the right time for Alicia Edwards to pass by. And she's asking how is his injury? Like it was apparently Eddie caused the whole thing, right? She's being very sympathetic. She's wishing him very well, and Ace is just like, "Oh, thanks, means a lot." And Alicia's just like, "Okay, well, I got a match, so see ya." Right? And of course, the moment Alicia leaves, Austin just drops the crushes. But the commentary again, they're trying to play like, "Oh, she seems very undecisive about her love life," But like she seems so indifferent to everything Ace Austin is doing, and commentary are trying to make it seem like no, she's totally being swayed by Ace Austin. She might even fall in love with him. She might leave her husband, and the looks on her face and the attitude she's giving is just like, I mean that's nice, but no, that's pretty much a whole delivery. Just like, oh, you did that. I mean that's nice. Why? What'd you do that for? Like, you like me or something? Like that's pretty much her delivery for the past few weeks. There's nothing really to it, and I'm disappointed that if that's the direction they're going, then they really need to do something big to make her either fall for what Ace is doing or to fall out of love with Eddie so that Eddie does something. I don't care what it is at this point now. I'm kind of over it now because he needs to do something now. I keep repeating it every week and it just makes me annoyed. So I'm not going to do that. I'm going to try and persevere through everything else. You have Madison Rayne having a chat to Jordan Grace as the locker room leader, the self-appointed locker room leader, warning Jordan about the dangers of Rosemary, who likes to make a disaster out of everything. And she's saying how we'll look at Kiera Hogan, look at Ali, Like it was I like the way Madison just said Ali. It was a wonderful little side piece there. But yeah, and Madison, she would absolutely hate it, guys. You know, she would absolutely hate it if something were to happen to Jordan. She'd be so broken up about it, you know. Jordan doesn't need her advice, though, and anyone else's, so she wanted to tell Rosemary that in person next week, which thankfully I can cover later. We have the third match, Havoc versus Alicia Edwards. I can't remember the last time Alicia's been on an Impact Wrestling ring in a match. I think it might have been an Impact Plus exclusive, which you guys should check out because the Impact Plus matches are getting better and better. The events are getting better and better. I loved Unbreakable. Thought it was fantastic. Unsurprisingly, very, very one-sided affair, right? So Alicia has speed on her side, but that's about it. Once Havoc grabs her, just rotates her around slowly but surely and delivers a tombstone. And what I love about Havoc, like you'll notice, she is like the safest worker to be a part of if you're a women's wrestler because she's one of the tallest wrestlers on the women's. Now I'm going to get tongue-tied, but she's the tallest woman they've got at the moment. She's a big girl, and a lot of her opponents are more petite, smaller size women. So when she goes for the tombstone, and it's supposed to be this devastating move, right? The opponents, their heads never touch anything. They never go past her knees at all, right? And obviously that's the danger where if you're doing a tombstone to someone who's bigger than you or about the same size, you have the danger of how they put their head back and everything else. Otherwise, you can cause serious injury. But Havoc is bigger than everyone else. Her tombstones, like, they don't even touch the ground, but commentary are like, oh my god, a devastating tombstone pile driver. That's Don Callis. But no, and you just, it's a little thing, bro. I kind of like it. So I'm glad that the extra bit of security that whoever Havoc faces, unless it's like a hardcore match, they are safe in her arms, her dangerous Havoc-filled arms. You have, after Alicia loses the match in very convincing fashion, you have Ace Austin tending to her side, still got the crutches, still got the bandages, trying to like say, "Are you okay? Is everything going to be okay?" Eddie finds him, just like, "Are you serious right now?" Chases her all around the ring. Chases Ace all around the ring. Ace slides through Havoc's legs, and Eddie tries to follow after him, but gets stopped by Havoc. And so Havoc is in the way of Eddie trying to get to Ace, and Ace is like pretending to make out with Alicia because she's like holding her neck and everything else. And Eddie he's like a bull. He's like red with anger, charges into a one-handed choke slam by Havoc, teasing a very possible intergender match in the future, which I do hope happens because that would be pretty damn cool. Havoc versus Eddie Edwards. If given the chance, those two could crush it. We had Su Yung take over the broadcast for like a few seconds with some indecipherable song. It seemed like it was something played in reverse because it had like that some that kind of the backwards language. I feel like it was in some kind of like foreign dialect as well, but it seemed like it was reversed on top of that to make it even more confusing, right? Then you had the OVE cam. You had Sami Callihan insulting Dave Christ, who the week before they were in the main event facing off against Tessa and Tommy Dreamer. Dave hit a low blow on Tessa, but she's a lady, so yeah, that didn't, in wrestling terms anyway, it does still hurt, but yeah, that didn't do anything. And yeah, Callahan's trying to insult Dave and just like, you know what, he's over Sammy's shit, he doesn't care, right? He's like, he took a lot of kendo stick shots, and he's just over Sammy's shit. That's all he is. But Sammy doesn't care if Brian Cage is injured. He's like, turns back around to Brian. Again, he doesn't have anyone to bounce off of, which is very unfortunate. You can tell he's in a very bad way, storyline-wise, right now. But yeah, the only thing that matters to him is that he will be the Impact World Champion, right? Jake Chris makes a stupid joke, so Sammy says, like, okay, if that's how you feel, in your rematch, in your match against Rich Swann later on tonight, OVE don't have your back. So there, ha. So Jake has to prove himself by doing it all on his lonesome. After that, and after Sammy says he's going to beat Tommy Dreamer, they're going to take over everything. Everything. Usual OVE promo, but they're still very, very entertaining, as always. You had a little promo with Moose on a day off in LA, saying goodbye to two lovely ladies, and he conducts a semi-interview. Apparently, he's been throwing some shade at Ken Shamrock, which, spoilers, is going to be returning to Impact Wrestling for their Las Vegas tapings. I am so excited. The godfather of TNA, the long-forgotten godfather of TNA, right? Fans in Australia know him as one half of the BCW Tag Team Champions alongside Carlo Cannon, but the rest of the world, they've kind of forgotten what Ken Shamrock can do. So I'm very happy that in a few weeks, people will actually realize why he's still called the world's most dangerous man. Moose isn't scared in his boots, which he should be, but after insulting Shamrock some more, he's saying he's put away many guys who consider themselves dangerous. As a 5-star athlete, Shamrock should take some advice. Be careful what you wish for. Now, I'm hoping, right? Because Impact better not mess this up. Moose needs to win because he's beaten RVD, former world champion. Great. He's beaten Fowler. Great. Keep the momentum going. Like, have him give a decisive victory over Ken Shamrock. I hope Ken does take him to the absolute limit. I hope, Ken gives Moose an absolute beating during the match, but I want Moose to come out the winner because we need to push a top contender for the world title down the line. Like, very subtly, you need someone to start racking up the victories, and I want that to be Moose. I do. I honestly do. So we'll hopefully see that happen. Like, they could easily have Shamrock come in and kill Moose, which would be funny, but I'm over bluffing at Moose. I actually want him to succeed at this point. X Division Championship match time. We had Jake Crist going up against Rich Swann in his rematch for the title. Very interesting. A lot of super kicks, a lot of spinning super kicks. Rich Swann, in terms of athleticism and just all around in-ring work, completely outclassed Jake Crist at every turn. But Jake Crist had to get creative, so he actually rolled up Swann, holding the tights for leverage. So despite Rich Swann coming out looking better from this, he didn't win the X Division Championship, which is not surprising because it feels like they are pushing him and Willie Mack as more of a tag team now, which I am quite fine with because they would be a wonderful tag team, and we need to promote more tag team wrestling in Impact since we have LAX who are essentially out the door now. I'm going to leave it at that if you haven't seen anything from this Sunday. We had a little promo from Tennille Dashwood. So Aussie Pride here, Tennille Dashwood. She's here in Impact Wrestling because the Knockouts division is the best place for the world to know it's all about me, right? The Desi Hit Squad are on the Dina's farm, and it stinks really bad. The Dinas come in, right? They're told to, of course, the Desi Hit Squad are still in their usual robes, and they tell them to get changed. After changing, Rohit starts getting ideas. Like, Rohit actually enjoys the farm life at the Dina compound, so Gama kind of slaps him, which is like funny comedy stuff, but I'm over the foreign heel being like the butt of the joke. This is coming from Australian, right? You see it more when you're watching Americans put themselves over a foreign heel, quote unquote, a foreign threat. It's been overplayed so much, so I hope that they don't overplay these vignettes of the Desi Hit Squad at the Dina compound. I feel like they're going to try and push this. They're going to try and squeeze this with every inch of their being till Bound for Glory. I feel like that's what they're going to try and do. Big blowout match for Bound for Glory. I don't think they should. I think they should kind of just let it be. And they've got, what is it? We're in September now. Just over a month and a half to push something else. Do that. Please do that. I think the Desi Hit Squad and you have the Dinas, they're both very underrated tag teams, but they've the story is very overplayed and it's pretty much dead in the water, so you need to give it some life and give them something else to do. We had some flashback moments of the week, so I'll spoil for this week's and last week's for the Cali Combat as well. They were of Ken Shamrock. So the one from Cali Combat was him winning the title, the NWA World Championship against Malice, and the Mexico tapings flashback moment was him retaining the title. I think it was against Malice as well, so it was the rematch for that. So confirming, I like when these flashback moments are used to serve a purpose and not just a random like, oh, here's a neat match from our archives. But no, there's actually a purpose to this to show that Ken Shamrock is the godfather of TNA, and he deserves to be recognized as such. You have Taya Valkyrie, who's giving an address from a podium with Johnny Bravo about the state of the Knockouts division and her reign as the Knockouts champion. Now, at the time that she is saying this, she's saying her current reign sits at 229 days, and then when the Mexico taping, so this is when not when they recorded it, but when the episodes are released. So they did very, very well at releasing it just the right time, right? So it's been about, at time I'm recording, her reign's been about 237 days, right? And she's putting over this fact that she is only like a week away from being the longest reigning champion in Knockouts history, right? She's going to have one more title defense, which, trust me, we'll get to in a second, before she goes celebrating, because it's going to be a big surprise. Big surprise. Okay. This is confusing because as a esteemed blogger for the B+, I actually did my research. And yes, Taya Valkyrie has had a very long title reign, but she is not close yet to being the longest reigning Knockouts champion. No, that honor actually goes to Taryn Terrell, who was known as Tiffany in WWE. She used to be the ECW manager for the WWE version of ECW. She became a wrestler. She joined TNA. She was their longest reigning women's champion. She's now retired, but the woman who has the second longest reign at 265 days is Rosemary. So Rosemary, in her one reign, she's been at it far longer, right? But Taya Valkyrie, they're saying like, oh, she's on 237 days at the time I'm recording, so she's got another month, right? So she has, like, they're trying to push it over that really she's had the longest reign ever, but really she hasn't. So I'm not quite sure what they're trying to say, like the other reigns don't count. Or maybe it's the fact that Taryn Terrell, she was the longest reigning for TNA. Rosemary won the title around about the time that it was GFW. So, and Taya won the belt like when it became Impact Wrestling. So maybe, yeah. So, because if you look at the reign before Taya, so it was Gail Kim at 232. So I think that's what they're saying. So for the Impact history here, go with me. The Impact history, yes, she has become the longest reigning Knockouts champion. But in terms of if you're including GFW Impact and you're including TNA, that honor doesn't go to her. But maybe, possibly, if she keeps holding on to the title for another month or two, she will officially, on the record books, have the longest title reign in TNA/Impact Wrestling history. I think that's right. So I'm very curious where they're getting their facts and figures from. So if you want to get technical, yes, she is the longest reigning, but in actuality, no, none at all. You had a little match between Willie Mack and Trey. No idea why. It was just thrown together because reasons. It was a great match, but did not serve any purpose at all other than another match for the Rascals to get jobbed out to someone. Every time, every week, every month, it seemed like for Slammiversary they were going to get those tag titles, and it just didn't happen. And now they're just relegated to being the Job Squad again. And it sucks. It does suck, but hopefully they can come back stronger and better than ever. They'll be recognized for their talents down the line. who knows, maybe at Bound for Glory they can actually slowly rise up and become credible contenders in the next month or so. I would like to see that. See, unfortunately, Trey lost to Willie Mack with a super stunner, which was a very interesting finish. You had Tommy Dreamer talking to Melissa Santos, tried to do a very great, he tried to do a good promo like he did with Tessa, right? Where he's talking about, I knew your grandfather, I knew your father. Like it said, look after my little girl, right? I want to be in the ring with a powerful woman. It was a great promo last week. Well, a couple weeks ago. Go with me, guys. But in this promo that he did with Melissa was so bad. It was so basic. Like he's saying, like, I'm here to fight bad stuff and negativity. There's good things in wrestling. There's bad things in wrestling. And Sami Callihan is a bad thing in wrestling. And I will beat him and the world will be a better place. That is essentially the promo that he delivered. I don't know who wrote it. I don't know if Tommy was thinking off the cuff of his head. Very horrible promo. And Tommy's usually so good at convincing people there's a reason he should be there when there's really not. And yeah, if you hadn't caught on from that incredibly well thought out promo, he lost in the main event. So it was a no disqualification match. Sami Callihan took Tommy Dreamer to his limit. Both men brought out baseball bats. They did little constructions with wooden doors and steel chairs. It was a great hardcore match, right? But it did not need to be the main event. I would have been far happier if this was the opening match and then the Michael Elgin Rhino stuff was at the end. Even though it was a double count out, I would have much rather that happen to kind of like end the episode with like bad blood and everyone brawling. But yeah, Tommy Dreamer does not need to be in the main event picture of anything anymore. He is not that. Like, I'm tired of a Tommy Dreamer match at this point in 2019. Yeah, Tommy needs to take a step back. But after the match, though, so Callihan wants to try and lay some more hurt onto Tommy Dreamer. Tessa comes out to make the save, but as she looks like she's gotten the best of him, Jake Crist comes out to save his leader. He attacks Tessa from behind, and then Tully was doing great in AEW, by the way. Weird segue there. But no, Tessa suffered a pile driver from Sami Callihan as Jake Crist gleefully celebrated with his leader, brother, cult associate, whatever you want to call OVE. And that's how we ended Cali Combat. Yeah. As I mentioned, like they keep circling the fact that Brian Cage is no longer on TV and everyone is just like, they're going through the motions until Brian Cage can come back. So, and that they keep teasing this idea of Tessa being in the world title picture. Didn't end up happening, and she's got all this momentum behind her, and they need to direct it somewhere. It doesn't look like she's got any opponents hinted at for Bound for Glory except for Sami. So, if Brian has to vacate the title, then I would love to see Tessa versus Sami one more time, of course, for the title, right? And you would think that Tessa would win that one, ideally. But I can see them maybe Impact kind of going for a cheaper victory for her, where they've been teasing for Tessa to win the man's title, and she could attack Jake. Like, she could actually win the X Division title off Jake Crist. It wouldn't be quite as rewarding, but Jake Crist has been continuously attacking Tessa and stopping her from attacking Sami. And Tessa has beaten Jake before, right before he was X Division champion. They could do that. It wouldn't have the same impact, but they could do it. I don't know. Hopefully in the next couple of weeks we will find out exactly what Impact have in store for the world title picture, because they need to clarify that very, very soon. And before I get into the latest taping for Impact Wrestling from Mexico City, Mexico, how about we hear from Greg with our sponsors?
Promotional consideration paid for by the following.
Hey guys, just a reminder, if you want to hear all of these wonderful B Plus podcast episodes completely ad-free, make sure you head over to Patreon or Podbean, where we are the featured podcast this week. You can subscribe for as little as $1 a month up to $10 a month, where anything you want to help us with, it really helps out. It's going to help us grow the site. It's going to help us redesign some things, and everything that we get through this and through the advertising as well is all going straight back into the podcast so that we can get Aussie Graps out there for the rest of the world to hear about, for the rest of the world to see, so we can grow this mission of watch global, support local, and build indie wrestling. So if you want to be a part of that and get some really cool rewards like call-in shows, bonus episodes, ad-free like I mentioned, then head over to patreon.com/theb+ and subscribe today. Hey everyone, just want to take a second to tell you about one of our new sponsors, Outbreak Nutrition. Outbreak Nutrition are creating supplements for survival, sharper minds, quicker reflexes, all the energy you need to take your performance to the next level, whether that be on the field, in the gym, on the gaming field. That's right, they have specifically designed gaming supplements as well to help you focus on those late night sessions. They even sell coffee, you guys, at Outbreak Nutrition. You can get coffee pods, you can get coffee beans, you can get supplements for the bedroom as well if you want to enhance your performance there. These are performance enhancing supplements for every aspect of your life, specifically designed by gamers, for gamers, to stay fit and healthy in the gym, to stay sharp and focused on the game, and to dominate in all areas of life. So check out outbreaknutrition.com, and for being a listener of our podcast, they will give you 10% off your order when you enter the code B+. That is BPLUS at checkout. So make sure, if you want to stay on top of your game, if you want to take your performance to the next level, outbreaknutrition.com, enter the code B+ at checkout.
And we are back, ladies and gentlemen. We are in Mexico City, Mexico, for the latest tapings of Impact Wrestling. I needed this. I needed to watch this to get the taste of Cali Combat out of my mouth, because it wasn't the best set of matches. There were some entertaining elements in there, but as a whole, the show was severely lacking. And I am glad I watched this the day before. So I watched this not today because of all the content that's been going out this week, but it was just what I needed to reinvigorate myself with Impact Wrestling. And you guys should actually check out this latest episode if you get a chance to. So we started out with, again, what we usually do with Impact Wrestling, X Division matches. This was a fatal four-way between Golden Magic, who of course is 1/3 of the AAA Trios champions, I believe. He came up with the title belt. Taurus, Trey of the Rascals, and TJP. Very happy to see him. I was wondering what happened to him. So he had a couple matches leading up to Slammiversary and on Slammiversary, like the pre-show, and then nothing on the tapings for like a month, right? He's been going across the world. He's been in Australia a couple times. Like he was over in Sydney, faced off against Maddie Wahlberg. He was over in Perth, my hometown here, facing off against Damian Slater. He's been going everywhere. And then all of a sudden, like now, he's back on Impact Wrestling, which I'm very glad, because he is the most capable, convincing Impact wrestler, like the X Division wrestler they have at the moment, which is saying something, considering the amount of talent they have. But in terms of future contenders to face off against Jake Christ, if we're not going to go the Tessa route and go with an actual X Division star, man, TJP, give the belt to TJP all the way. But we're in Mexico. We have these great X Division guys. Lucha, high flying, everything you expect. Golden Magic hit Trey and TJP with a pair of cutters. You had TJP got picked off the top rope with the Hurricanrana, sending him crashing into Trey. There were so many spots in here, guys. There was so much, right? TJP and Trey were battling it out, and then you had TJP pretend to slap Trey, but they just did a dab. It was funny, it was corny, but I liked it. You had TJP take out both Taurus and Golden Magic with a combo Hurricanrana arm drag. In terms of combinations, again, high flying, like submission specialist. It was amazing how TJP would do all these like double submission finishes and like neck breaker, cutter combinations. The guy can do it all. I absolutely love this opening match. Taurus got some action. He did a double suplex to TJP and Golden Magic. I love the finish for this. So you had TJP had locked up Taurus in a submission, like an ankle lock, just like but like on the ground. And meanwhile, Golden Magic hit Trey with a 450 splash. So while TJP is almost going to let Torres tap, you had Golden Magic got the pinfall victory just before Torres started tapping. So just by an inch, TJP lost the match, setting up maybe a couple matches of TJP versus Golden Magic, champion in Mexico, which was a very clever way to push that going forward with Mexico. Explosive, entertaining, very high flying, so much energy. Go check it out. Absolutely loved it. You had a little segment with Madison Rayne, who is stopping a bickering match between Jordan Grace and Kira Hogan and their tag team partners for later on tonight. And as this self-proclaimed locker room leader, she says, "Settle your differences in the ring. Peace." And everyone just lets her say that, and then just all of a sudden, like, they have a match later on tonight, as if Madison Rayne actually has power backstage. Okay, they just sort out their own shit in Impact Wrestling. There's no managers. Scott Del More, it just, yeah, it doesn't make any sense, but there you go. It makes Madison seem like she has more power than she actually does, and it gives her more of an ego boost, like, oh, I made these two fight. Yay. We had a tag team match. The Rascals, again, we're having them face off against Rich Swann and Willie Mack. So the past few weeks we've had 6-man tag, singles matches, tag matches. The Rascals, Des and Wentz this time with the Rascals, facing off against Rich Swann and Willie Mack. As I mentioned, they're trying to push Willie and Rich as the new up-and-coming tag team. You can tell that they're going to really push them hard. I can see it being the Bountiful Glory match, right? Rich Swann, Willie Mack versus the North. Oh, it'd be so good. It'd be so good. Both teams exchanged a lot of hurricanranas. There was a lot of Wentz did a German suplex followed by a Samoan drop and a standing moonsault by Dez. Commentary were trying to really put up the fact that Wentz has a history of being a bare knuckle fighter. So they're trying to hype him up on the Impact commentary that he has a little bit of an extra MMA background because he's been announced for Bloodsport coming out next month or so. So it's nice of them to kind of push Wentz. It's a nice little extra thing of just like reward for him saying, like, you know what, let's kind of hype you over a little bit on commentary. I like that little touch there. Impact, you done good. What they didn't do good though with is the fact that, again, the Rascals lost their match. So Rich takes Dez off the top rope with another hurricanrana. Willie followed up with a 6-star frog splash for the win. Yeah, Rascals, again, losing the match, ending their match on their backs, and Rich Swann and Willie Mack dancing the night away going forward. Both teams, they did raise each other's hand in the middle of the ring, which was nice, right? They're still friends for now. All these losses could mean a Rascals heel turn, maybe. Ooh, that could be interesting. You had a promo. Ken Shamrock responded to the comments made by Moose from the previous week on social media. And he's going to confront him in Las Vegas in September, right? And he's hyping up all his accomplishments in UFC, MMA, and of course being the godfather of damn TNA, which he is, right? He's not afraid of Moose. And then you cut to Melissa Santos interviewing Moose, who says the exact same thing. He's not afraid of Ken Shamrock. And he says that he calls him an attention whore, which, like, pot, kettle, black, Moose, you in your attire and your bravado and the way you present yourself, like, wow, just wow, coming from you, sir, wow. Then we had an interesting person interrupt Moose, Fala Bar. Now, Moose is trying to continue the stupid whole, look at this fat boy, right? What are you trying to do, fat boy? You're trying to come up to me and you're going to eat some... He's just saying all this dumb shit. And Falabar just says, no, you, me, next week, one more time, bitch. And just leaves. Loved it. Like, I didn't know I needed that from Falabar. But again, another one of those silent sleepers that they want to try and push down the line. Please push Fala going forward, right? Please. So I don't know how they're going to do this, right? They're going to have them face one more time. If Moose wins, I want it to be a decisive victory. And if it's a decisive victory, I want Fala to snap. I want Fala to snap, and I want him to just... I want Evil Panda. I want Evil Panda so he can actually get a push, right? Because if Fala wins, maybe it could be by shenanigans, like Ken Shamrock appears on the Titantron, something like that, right? To kind of make it okay. I'm fine with that. But I don't know how they're going to swing this moving forward, because two great big boys that need some attention in Impact Wrestling. Hopefully they can make it all work. We had the Desi Hit Squad. We had another little promo with them being subjected to more punishment, more work by the Deaners on the Diener compound farm. Again, Rohit Raju is enjoying himself. He is loving life right now. Yeah, he's like, he's loving the horses. He's having fun. His brother's not having a great time, but you know what? Forget him. We get a vignette with Johnny Swinger, who's a former WCW, WWE, and TNA star, right? Don't sing it, just swing it. Which, okay, we'll see what happens with you. Then we have Taya Valkyrie's match here. Now, Taya Valkyrie, right? So they have a promo. She's holding the 236 sign that Johnny Bravo is. And yes, she keeps saying that about her reign, the longest reigning Knockouts champion in history, should defend her championship against someone big, right? Then she's going to return to Slamtown, ride out the last 2 days, drinking champagne with her husband, right? More of that. So we have that. Taya Valkyrie, she does a little promo in Spanish and English, which I kind of liked. And I think the crowd were muted because you could hear them kind of like respond. So, okay, she knows our language, right? Because she has a lot of history in Mexico and, of course, the Lucha Underground history as well. But Taya brought out Big Mummy, right? Who is a former mixed champion in AAA, if I remember correctly, right? So she's more of a gimmick wrestler. So the fact that she kept saying big wrestler, Big Mummy, if you couldn't tell the way it sounds, she's a big girl. Now, this match didn't give her a chance to do all that much. Like, I should say Big Mummy. She did the stink face. She did like the other move that escapes me, like that all big people do. She tried to do the big bonsai drop, but got stopped. Right? Like, here's the thing: Big Mummy did a moonsault, but it was the scariest goddamn moonsault I have ever seen in my life, because just by a fraction she pulled it off, because she came so close to breaking her freaking neck, right? And Josh Matthews on commentary was so close to having a heart attack. Go watch it. It's like even like little segments on the Impact YouTube channel, right? He had a heart attack watching Big Mummy, like, Miss Taya, right? But the fact that that moonsault just by the skin of her teeth landed, like, they could have easily had a horrible, horrible injury there. I got so, like, uncomfortable after that. And Taya wisely finished off the match, did an STF to retain her championship. But man, that was a very, very scary finish there. I was like, oh, like, if they're going to have Big Mummy keep doing matches on the tapings, please don't have her do any high-flying moves. Please, just the bonsai drop is fine. Like, do the bonsai drop, sure. Please no moonsaults. I don't want to see a broken neck, please. Thank you. We had some promos again. We had OVE, just Sammy this time. So, without OVE, without Jake, Chris, Dave, or Madman, talking about Tessa again, talking about Tommy, but he's now directing his promos about Brian Cage. And he's saying, I don't care if Brian's injured, I want an answer by next week. Like, where I'm standing with my number one contendership. Is he going to have the number one contendership match at Bound for Glory, or is it going to be on an Impact Plus exclusive event? We don't know. So if he doesn't get answers by next week, OVE are going to destroy everything in Impact Wrestling. So I don't know what I want more, an answer to the world title picture or OVE to just go apeshit. Can we have both? Can we have both? I would love to see both. OVE, that we just need to remind ourselves just how good OVE is, just how good the draw Sammy Callahan is, the Callahan Death Machine. At the time of recording, it's actually his birthday, so you know what? Happy birthday, Sammy Callahan. I want you to succeed in Impact Wrestling. That's what I hope for. You should be world champion because you're there. That's my feeling anyway. And it sucks because I love Brian Cage. I love the Machine, but his reign has been non-existent. He's had a match against Michael Elgin. Then he had a street fight where he just again got injured in kayfabe, but he was still injured. And now, nothing. Absolutely nothing. We don't know what's going on. So I would like some answers very soon, please and thank you. We had that match, as I mentioned earlier on, Kiera Hogan and Vanilla versus Jordan Grace and Chica Tormenta. This was a no contest win, but this was the reason for this. So you had Madison Rayne interfere after Grace pushed her. All the ladies started brawling on the outside. And then all of a sudden, Rosemary came out. So that the match instead became a trios match, which is a big thing in Mexico. So as much as I don't like, again, like double countouts, no contest and all that, this led to an actual match. So I'm actually happy this, like, I tolerate this. I enjoyed this. As for the trios match, you had the winners Rosemary, Jordan Grace, and Chica Tormenta. So Rosemary picked up the win after Madison Rayne and Kiera Hogan abandoned Vanilla. Rosemary did like a hammerlock. It looks like she was going to go for a hammerlock DDT, but she turned it into like a Bubba Bomb. I don't know the name for it, but it's just like she had a head tucked underneath her arm. It was a very creative finish. I don't think I've seen her do it before. And continuing on from last week, how Jordan Grace said she'll confront Rosemary when it looked like all three teams were going to raise their hand in victory. Jordan Grace just said like, no, screw you, I don't need your help, and just left. So she hasn't won over, Rosemary has not won over Jordan Grace quite yet. We could see it happening still, but Jordan Grace, she don't need no help, right? I don't think that it's too early to turn her heel. Like, she's doing so well on her, like, they need a strong face for the knockouts picture, a strong face for the women's division. And if Tessa is off being an intergender star, you need someone to be leading the knockouts division. So I hope that's Jordan Grace going forward. But yeah. So we have we had an Ace Austin. Oh God, I almost forgot about this. So Ace Austin, they have another little segment of him trying to seduce Alicia Edwards, right? So what happens? They're at the beach, right? He sent her 25 text messages telling her that it's an emergency, and all he wanted to do was just take her out to see how nice the view is, right? And to appreciate the view. And Alicia's just like, okay, what do you want? And he wants to set the stage for something he wants to share to her. And Alicia's again, indifferent, oblivious. Okay, what do you want to talk to me about? Right? And he's saying, of course, like, because he's convinced that Eddie will hurt him. And Alicia doesn't even deny it. Like, she's indifferent. She does not give a shit in this story at all. Right? Austin wants to tell her how he feels, but just as he's about to say that he loves her, two mysterious muggers show up and steal Alicia's handbag. Right? Austin says he's got this, tackles one of them. They throw the bag in, like, thankfully on the sand, not in the ocean. Right? He chases the other one into the ocean. They fight as Alicia looks on. Right? The mugger escapes and Ace goes underwater for a second, emerges, and we get a Baywatch slow motion entrance with Ace Austin with funky porno music in the background. Right? Out of nowhere, right? Did not add to anything at all, except just it made me laugh out loud. I was thankfully not drinking any water when I saw this. And again, Alicia, was not into it at all, right? We're focusing on Ace Austin's physique. We've got the Baywatch music going. He's doing the poses. Nothing. Alicia is not into this at all. And she's like, are you okay and stuff? Like, she didn't even care about the bag. She thanks him and just like, okay, well, I've got a match, so we can confirm that she's got a match next week. Don't know who it's with yet. But Austin has a little cheeky smile, and he meets up with the muggers, who turns out to be Reno Scum. So he hired Reno Scum. They had hoodies on, so you couldn't see who it was. But yeah, Austin's thinking like, oh yeah, she bought it. I'm so in with her. And Alicia's just like, okay, like that's nice that you did that for me, but you're my friend and I do not care about you at all, and I don't care about my husband, and just there's no emotion here. This storyline makes no sense. Why doesn't it make any sense? Right? Have Alicia fall for whatever bullshit Ace is selling, or have her still leave her husband. Something to make Eddie snap. That's all I want from this story. Why can't I have nice things, Impact? This is what I want here. I just want it to make sense. We had a backstage promo, this time not at the beach, but backstage in Impact. We had LAX with Conan, so Santana's back. They're just chilling backstage, and Conan invited the North for a little chat. Now he threatens to kill them, stab them, make them disappear, get shot, all this stuff, right? If they don't accept another chance to fight for the tag team titles. So under the threat of death, Conan is saying, like, I'm a shot caller here. You guys should give LAX one more chance. Thankfully, the North are like, you're full of shit, Conan. But then you had LAX. They were kind of getting a little bit heated, and the North were just trying to goad them on, saying like, you let this old man speak for you. I want to hear what you guys have to say, right? And Santana, they're getting all up in their face. They're talking about their accomplishments. 4-time tag team champions, the longest reigning tag team champions, right, who put the company on their backs. They proved themselves, and they're trying to say, what have the North done, right? And Conan keeps saying that the North have idiot's luck. Bitch, they don't have idiot's luck. They're just that damn good. Like, you cannot call what the North are doing idiot's luck, because they are carrying Impact Wrestling on their backs now, and I do not like the implication that they're not. And Ortiz is cutting this promo that he's so confident that LAX can beat the North that he offers a stipulation that LAX will leave Impact Wrestling forever if they lose, right? And he doesn't want to be here if LAX can't defeat the North for the tag team titles. So yeah, what's going to happen there? Like, if we don't already know, the LAX have left Impact Wrestling, and where have they shown up? I'll leave that for another video. I'll leave that for another podcast. Yeah, I wanted to buy into this promo that they did. Very heartfelt. It was delivered well, but it seemed like Ortiz was holding back. Like, he wasn't comfortable with just having this big anger. Like, you know what? You guys are assholes. Like, you wanted to see him get heated and angry, and he's just he kind of got up to like 50% there, but he didn't just. It was like he was half committing. It didn't quite work for me. Santana, his was alright, but in terms of the LX promo as a whole, it kind of fell flat a little bit for me. I'm sorry to say. But the message was clear. We're going to have the Tag Team Championship match either next week or the week after. We're going to see that match for LAX's final match in Impact Wrestling before they move on to Name Redacted. Then we have the main event. We have the Falls Count Anywhere match between Michael Elgin and Rhino. Pretty much a big 15-minute Falls Count Anywhere match where the big boys were just brawling. And thankfully, like, I love Michael Elgin here because he was matching Rhino with the brawling and everything else. But one thing he has over Rhino, the fact that he's also younger, is that he can fly. And he was delivering all these drop kicks, did a couple moonsaults. He was being so agile, so nimble. He was outsmarting Rhino, who again, big wild animal, would just barge and charge and like would kind of lose everything. You had Elgin kind of take advantage after Rhino missed a gore, and he crashed through a table, and that was how that match ended. So Michael Elgin won the match against a former TNA world champion. Made all the sense in the world to me. It was, again, they kind of teased, they were brawling into the crowd, and it looked like there was a moment where Rhino was going to suplex Michael Elgin onto some chairs onto a lower level of the stadium that they're in. They teased that, didn't end up happening. Rhino kind of fell still. But yeah, it was a very entertaining. Rhino, even though he's very rigid and he's, again, he is a literal animal in his moveset and his offense and his psychology, it was fun. It was an entertaining Falls Count Anywhere match, and I'm glad that I watched this after watching Cali Combat, like one after the other, so I could wash that out of my mind and just like, it led to this, so I'm happy. Where Rhino goes from here, I really don't know. You could have, like, they had it on an Impact Plus special, but you could have Moose face off against Rhino in the build up to Bound for Glory, and then he has a match against, I don't know. It seems too early to say, but I think he could be a nice little build up match for Moose to kind of give him a bit more rub to defeat another world champion, right? So that he can be seen as a top contender for Impact Wrestling. Very slow goings. The Mexico tapings are in full swing. Cannot wait to see what else happens with that. We do have some other news from Impact coming out this week. As I mentioned, all the rest, we had Impact Wrestling. They're now covering the hotel cost for their staff, for the wrestling roster, which is a huge step in the right direction, because anything that a promotion can do to make the staff, like I keep saying staff, but their employees feel like employees and not independent contractors, to give them benefits wherever they can find them. There's only good things that can come out of that. You have Alberto Del Patron's upcoming promotion in Mexico, which I cannot pronounce properly at this point in time, but they say they're going to do health insurance. You had AEW, like they've got Chris Jericho on, like they give him health insurance. He's an employee there compared to a lot of the other guys who are independent contractors, but they get other benefits provided by Tony Khan, right? And a less rigorous work schedule, opportunities at other stuff outside of wrestling. They're doing all these things for them, and Impact, as a reward for their staff who have stayed, they're going to cover their hotel costs, which is a lovely gesture, and hopefully it entices more indie stars to actually go to Impact, because that little perk and a little bit more exposure, which you wouldn't think, of course, would pursue, but as announced on their Impact Wrestling news site, Impact Plus subscriptions are now available on Fight TV. Just been announced. I wanted to make sure I ended the podcast on this, which is a fantastic grab for Impact Wrestling. So Fight TV, they stream everything, right? They stream all kinds of like boxing, MMA, UFC stuff, and of course wrestling. A lot of wrestling promotions are on Fight TV. Some of the biggest indie shows around across the globe are on Fight TV, and now if you want an Impact Plus subscription, if you're a part of Fight TV, for $7.99 a month or $71.99 for a year, you can watch Impact Wrestling on Fight TV. A lot more exposure for Impact Wrestling. A great platform for them. Perfect decision, perfect partnership by Impact and Fight TV. Gives more notoriety to the Impact Plus specials, gives more attention to the brand. Very happy that Impact are just slowly, you're probably going to miss it in the big week of wrestling that we've had with AEW, with New Japan, with NXT UK TakeOver. But I wanted to stress this point that Impact Plus are slowly like clawing their way to become one of the biggest brands, one of the still leading brands in professional wrestling today. So I hope that they get a lot more viewers drawn to them, and of course to Fight TV, of course, but mainly to Impact Wrestling. And I hope that more people check it out. If you've listened to this entire podcast, you believe as much as I do that Impact Wrestling should get more attention and that the stars should get more recognition. So thank you for listening to me rambling talk about the past 2 weeks of Impact Wrestling. That's it for this week's edition of the Impact Zone, ladies and gentlemen. If you want to follow me on all the socials, I'm at Mr. Mysterious 117I, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and Grapple. Hit me up. Let me know what you thought about these past couple weeks' editions of Impact Wrestling. If you want to follow us here collectively at the B+, because we're a great bunch, if I do say so myself, we are at the B+ Wrestle on Twitter because wrestling won't fit, and the B+ Wrestling everywhere else. And I end on this, and I stress it every single time because I mean it every single time. Any amount you could donate would be greatly appreciated because we can keep giving you what you want, when you want, showcasing the very best of Australian wrestling and keeping you up to date on all the wrestling news from around the globe. Like, share, subscribe, hit that 5-star review. I've been Mr. Mysterious for the Impact Zone, and I'll see you later.